name's Gary Comerford. I'm the program manager for the National Defense University Academic and Business Support Services program. We've done a pretty intensive workforce analysis and manpower study over the last, I'd say, 9 months, which resulted in some understanding really of all the work that's being done by academic, business, and writing support. So we discovered we had about 79 billets there, and there's several vacancies, and our, I guess Captain Colby, the Chief Operations Officer, is looking at this opportunity that we're conducting right now as a way to better understand what's going on, what kind of work are we doing, how do we scale what we're doing, how do we start hiring more people with data-driven insights. That led us down a path to start making some recommendations, and we're starting with what David is going to show you. We're organizing a service catalog and trying to look at this through the services that they deliver. So you folks are very, very important to helping us evaluate what we've pulled together in this initial service catalog. But I don't want to step on David's toes too much. I want to turn it over to David. He's the expert and is going to kind of guide you through this discussion here. So,
thanks, Gary. And please let me know. I'll try to keep an eye on if folks raise a hand. We've got about 6 or 7 slides to work through, and maybe we try to get through those in terms of it's a training video, and we can ask questions at the end. Maybe we'll try that. So this would probably be about a 10 or 12 minute overview. So I'll start here with, my name is David Savacci with Definitive Logic. We're here under contract to try to improve the academic and business support services in support of the NDU mission and to alleviate some pain points among the workforce by using a certain approach that involves some online surveys and some data analysis, which I will explain to you in a moment. So to start, an overview of what is a service catalog. So this is a best practice of high-performing organizations to take the time to think through and write down what is it that the organization provides in terms of services and tasks, and how does that organization best support the mission. Starting on the left, the service catalog involves definitions. So we've broken down academic and business support services into 9 level 2 areas, and below that we have around 100 what we'll call work breakdown structure level 3 tasks and services, and we'll show you that in a moment. We've given some simple definitions to each of those. And as you look on the screen here, there's a couple really interesting and I think important things that a service catalog can do for the organization over time. As we further mature the approach in the future, we can look at setting some performance levels, in other words, levels of service. We could reallocate resources to higher priority tasks and services. If our workforce is limited and we have some vacant billets, we can better understand where to allocate our limited resources in best support of the mission. And all the while building to the one you see on the far right, which is a staff of people with the knowledge, the tools, and the processes that they need to be exceptional in what they do. NDU has a very important mission to our nation, and making sure that that staff is really supporting the mission as best they can, and we're caring for those people at the same time and fostering them and maturing them in their ability to provide those services is very important. This slide builds on the past slide, but overlays kind of the why. This is important in terms of those main elements you see in blue. So are those services or tasks needed for accreditation? Are they very high priority to student experience or perhaps a lower priority? Likewise, faculty and staff experience? Or on the right, we see are they required by the Joint Chiefs? So these are some of the mission pieces that we're considering and we're including when we talk through the surveys, and this is explained in a little more detail in a moment, how to answer those questions. And when we say the NDU mission, what does that mean? That means kind of awareness and thinking through those elements on the top of the slide in terms of why is each service higher priority or lower priority. So this is a very busy slide, and it's a lot to think through, and I'll try to not go too fast, and we're going to just do a high-level pass through this. I think take a couple minutes just so you understand. We're focusing on the red box, which is the online surveys, but taking a few moments to understand how that fits into the broader strategy I think is important. So starting on the left, we have that service catalog, a work breakdown structure that breaks down academic and business support services into 9 main areas. And below that, we have those, roughly speaking, 100 lower level elements that I discussed earlier. And I'll show you quickly, I'll show you an example of that. Now we're getting real-time feedback, and this is changing a little bit. But as you can see on the screen, for example, WBS 4.0 is administrative support services. Below that, we have 5 more specific elements, for example, records management services. In the service catalog, you'll get a couple sentences about what is 4.5 record management services. This involves these functions or these tasks, and then we've got a couple key elements that you might want to consider about that for each one of these 100, roughly speaking, 100 services and tasks. That is a data structure that we use to catalog information and feedback. So moving from left to right, there's a service catalog with the definitions. Now we get into the workforce analysis, and for each one of those services or tasks, we're asking 2 questions on an online survey. And we'll get into more details in the next slide. But at the top level, we ask 2 questions. One is that task a very high priority to NDU, or is it a medium priority or a lower priority? That question results in the vertical axis of this chart. And on the horizontal axis, we'll ask the second question, which is how easy or difficult is it to perform that task in a standardized manner? In other words, could it be shared among a distributed workforce? Is there some technology that could be acquired very easily because there's nothing unique or special about the service? Or is it very unique and special? Perhaps it's only found at one campus. It's only found in a university setting. It's inherently governmental. And that axis combines with the priority axis to give us some quadrants and investment strategies, and we think about how to improve each service. And I'll show you a larger slide on that chart in a moment, but conceptually, hopefully that makes sense. And moving finally to the right, that data and some other data that we've collected over the past 6 months all comes together using that data structure to inform a roadmap for improvement and a better trained and better equipped staff to perform at a higher level. The online surveys themselves, they will be sent out whereby an interviewee can perform the survey on their phone using this QR code. And please feel free to scan that even right now, and you'll see just a representative sample of what that might look like on your smartphone. But on the left, you can also perform the survey on your computer. What you'll get on the first screen is a little bit of an overview. So here we're seeing event and communication support services, and we're talking about those 2 questions that we're going to ask: service delivery methodology and priority importance to the mission. And each question is described and explained in greater detail on the next part of the survey that you'll see. Before we do that, though, I'll please take a glance and I'll read through the blue text, which is kind of an important context item. So for each question that we ask, please answer the question from your own perspective, not limit your response by current roadblocks or limitations. And we're really seeking to understand that art of the possible. So if you had a better IT system, if you improved a process, if you had fully staffed resources, what's the art of the possible in terms of that service? Could it be provided in a standardized manner? Could it be improved? And how important is it to the mission? So here we see in greater detail what you'll see in the surveys for those 2 questions that we'll ask for each task or service. Question 1, should this service be provided in a common way across all components, or is it overwhelmingly unique to each component? Basically, yes, it can and should be provided in a standard way. The middle answer is maybe. So maybe some of it could be, there might be some challenges there, and that's explained in the response. Or no, the service is totally unique to each component, and there's clear and undisputable reasons why it cannot be common across each component. So that's question 1. It's a scale of 3. Yes, maybe, no. And then we look at question 2. How high of a priority is the service to the NDU mission, considering the factors that you see on the screen? Is it required by the Joint Chiefs? Compliance, student experience. So how high of a priority is it? Is it a lower priority, a medium priority, or the highest priority? And you see the kind of the text explanation there in terms of defining those. We've tried to structure these questions so that the scale is used. In other words, if everything is the highest priority, the data really won't be informing us of anything, and we won't be able to get smarter about better allocation of resources and improving things. So we would anticipate some things are a little bit of a lower priority, some things are medium, and some things are the highest priority. So as you're answering these questions, please consider that scale. And by answering those in that manner, it's going to give us the best data structure to improve that NDU mission for academic and business support services. So how does that actually work in terms of data analysis? This is that same chart we saw earlier in the presentation, and we have the two axes, the vertical being, is it a very high priority, a medium priority, or a lower priority on the vertical axis? And on the horizontal axis, we have, if we move to the right, it's easy to standardize that service. It's easy to acquire it in the marketplace. There's nothing special or unique about it among the campuses. It's always performed in the same way. And as we move to the left, it's becoming more unique and more special and more challenging to accomplish that in a standardized way. So with those two axes in mind and combining those on a graph, we have the data points. So now we can look at, for example, service or task 5.1. And what the data is telling us is, according to the deans and the stakeholders and the people that are closest to the mission, that is a high priority element. And this is just representative data. It's not, we're not actually saying 5.1 resides in that quadrant, but as an example, it's highly a high priority. And also it's relatively easy to standardize that. So this quadrant up here, 1.23 and 5.6, we're looking at those individually and in groupings of services and tasks and determining what is a better way to provide those services and tasks, more efficient and more effective. As we move to the left, we're seeing things that are also very highly important to the mission, but they're more challenging to replicate. There's something special or maybe unique to a university setting on those tasks, but we're still looking at those elements to see if we can improve them. And then as we move lower, we're seeing things that are less of a priority, likely still required. I'm sure that the tasks are likely happening because they need to be happening. Folks want to support that mission, but they're not as high of a priority to the NDU mission. And so we're looking at those as well to see if we can gain some efficiencies, some additional effectiveness. But in the lower left, that's really not that's not where we start, because they're very unique and special. They're more challenging. So we still have awareness and visibility of those issues, but in terms of an investment strategy, we're starting to focus on the more mission critical pieces, the pieces that are easier to standardize and replicate. That concludes the training session for the Foursquare data analysis and the online surveys. We'd like to thank you very much for taking the time to participate in the surveys. Hearing directly your voice as the people closest to that NDU mission is going to be extremely important to us as contractors, supporting improvement in processes, and potentially, hopefully, making that NDU mission better supported for academic and business support services. Thank you. All right, Gary. I think you're on mute, Gary.
Apologize. Yeah. So with that, I know we went through that relatively quickly, but thorough. What we'd like to give you some time is to ask any questions. Is there anything that that we can help you understand a little bit better, or drill a little bit deeper on? Okay.
Yeah, Q&As would be very helpful. I'm sure if there are questions from folks on the call, that others probably have the same question. So let's just take a quick moment to circle back to, here's how all the pieces come together, and we're focusing on the online surveys, again, that provides that data structure and moves towards a roadmap. So just want to check in with the group here. Does it all make sense, or does anyone have any questions at this time that might be helpful for others as well?
Hi, this is Stephanie. What is the timeline for this?
Yeah, great question. So the month of July is basically what we're looking at for the online surveys. We've talked with the core stakeholders about the best approach there. So what we're doing actually is we're taking the 9 service areas. We're going to group them into 6 surveys. Our thought there is a single survey with 100 questions is just really too much to handle for most people in one setting. So we've broken it down into 20-minute surveys. The first 3 of those will be released on the 5th of July. And the second 3 will be published and sent to you via a link on mid-July, I think probably around the 15th of July.